As the notorious B.I.G. once said, I'm going back to Cali. I'm actually out here to go to the SoCal Gaming Expo, but while I'm out here, I might as well go to some video game stores out here in LA.
It's a really wild time to be in LA because of all the things that are going on. Now, what am I gonna do while I'm here? One, I've got the SoCal Gaming Expo to go to. That's gonna be a ton of fun. Two, I'm gonna go to IGN Live, which I already made a video on. You should check it out if you're into that. And three, I already made a video on some of the best video game stores in LA, but you always have to do a follow-up because LA has a ton of video game stores, and every single time I go there, I've either missed a video game store that's been there forever, or a new video game store has popped up and I really need to check it out. So we've got a little bip of a mix here, and we've got some other cool stuff to check out. So if you're
ready,
let's go ahead and flip and dip.
Flip and dip, play the game, that's legit. Flip and dip, play the game, that's legit.
It's kind of funny, this is the second time I've been in LA and found a giant CRT littering the sidewalk. I really don't think this is an LA thing, I just think it's funny that this has happened to me 2 times. Well anyways, I'm out here on Melrose giving LA video games a look. By the way, I had to shout these out. Yes, it looks like Carl's Jr. or Hardee's, but this is in fact the founder of the Spaghetti Boys, a very interesting street artist. Well anyways, here we are at LA Video Games, one of the most interesting stores that I've been to. One thing I find unique and interesting about this store is its business model. This whole store is owned by somebody, and half of it is actually on consignment. That means multiple people have rented out a lot of these booths right here. I know you might get a little bit of sticker shock here, but this is in Melrose. To give you some context, Melrose is where rich people go to buy things. You've got to compare these prices to a store that might be located like right in Times Square. What I find so interesting about this business model is it ends up solving a lot of problems. By the way, I've wanted one of these Mario statues forever. They're amazing and they're usually at Target. The 3 main things that video game stores have to worry about is the cost of rent, the cost of inventory, and the cost of advertising. I'll say the store has 10 booths. That means 10 people are filling this store with brand new product. Also, if all 10 of these folks have Instagrams, TikToks, whatever, that means you have 10 different people advertising the store. This also ends up working out for the consumer as well because you can go here frequently and there's multiple people changing out stock all the time. The only other place I've really seen this business model is in antique malls. And every once in a while when you go into an antique mall, you will find like one video game booth or, you know, somebody that has like VHS and a couple of video games. Now, normally a video game store probably wouldn't be able to exist in this area because it's very expensive when it comes to rent. But by pooling their resources, multiple little video game vendors are able to fit in a very high trafficked part of LA. This is very interesting. I feel like this business model could work in more than just locations in LA. This could work in a lot of other places as well. I didn't realize it until later, but they actually have 2 different locations. This one in Melrose and another one somewhere else in LA. I feel like if you're going to be in Melrose anyways, you might as well come in here and take a look at what they've got going on here. By the way, I am so curious about these Labubus, I don't fully understand them. At one point, I used to do video unboxings for Pop Mart. I don't understand why these Labubus are so popular. These vintage Marios are great, but they're always missing a hat. It's almost impossible to find the hat on its own, so you might end up just buying another one just for the hat. Now this Blitz Special Edition is an N64 game I'm looking for, but I think I could probably find it for $100 this weekend. LA Video Games is definitely worth checking out, but if you're in the area, you might as well go next door to Round 2. Now, if you're a sneakerhead or into vintage clothing or into streetwear, you probably have heard of Round 2. I always knew there was a Round 2 in New York, but apparently there's one in LA. And after doing a little bit of research, I found out that Round 2 actually started in Richmond, Virginia. All I know about Richmond, Virginia is the Jefferson Hotel is there. I was actually very surprised at the amount of nostalgia items that were lining the walls here. And it's funny, you can actually buy a lot of this stuff. Vintage shops like this aren't for everybody. A lot of people prefer to go to Goodwills and garage sales and, you know, just find vintage clothing on their own. That being said, time is money. A lot of people don't have time to go to every single Goodwill in the world looking for cool stuff. Vintage clothing stores parallel retro video game stores. It's always possible to find retro gear on your own cheaper, but it's nice to be able to see things in person. Retro clothing in general sometimes fits a little bit wonky because sizing and fits have changed over the years. And another thing these stores offer is a curation of taste as well. Some of these concepts can seem a little bit foreign, especially if you grew up like me, going to Goodwills out in the necessity. I personally like the curation in the store, and it makes a lot of sense why LA Video Games Next Door is doing pretty well. If you find a customer that's willing to spend $40 on a Spider-Man t-shirt, you might have also found a customer that's willing to spend just as much on retro video games. If you're in the area, you should definitely check it out. It's really fun browsing.
You know, I kind of like that a lot because it mixed the best of both worlds for me. I love video games, but I also love streetwear and sneakers, and there's just, an overlap for video games in general and collectibles. People that collect things, whether it's shoes or video games or Pokemon cards, all have certain things in common. Yeah, if like one of those things are the thing that you're into, you're going to have a much deeper level of knowledge. But there's some basics there about people who like collecting things, people that like reselling things, that just kind of transcend all of the different collectible spaces. Even people that like collect coins have things in common with people that collect video games. I always just find it interesting to talk to people that, collect things. Anyways, this next store we're going to go to is a old school store that's been in LA for about ever. I went there many, many years ago, but the name of the store is World 8. It is a Mario themed store. It is a ton of fun. And if you've never been there, you should definitely check it out. It's actually one of the first stores I ever went to in LA that was video game related. I didn't film it back then because I wasn't really filming things, but it is definitely worth checking out. So let's get into that.
Now, if you're looking for an old school video game store that's been around for a very long time, look no further than World 8 Video Games in LA. I believe the first time I ever went to this particular store was about 7 years ago. Back when LA didn't have a ton of independent retro video game stores, Round 8 was still around. And as always, I'm checking out their N64 games. They've got some rarer, not for resale games, but nothing that I really need. Now, the funny thing is I have a pretty good memory for spaces and places. And funny enough, in Season 1, Episode 5 of Mythic Quest, specifically the episode entitled A Dark Quiet Death, this video game store shows up a few times. I remember when I watched the episode, I remember thinking, I think that's World 8. And when I asked the people that worked here, they said, yeah, this is in that show. Funny enough, that's the best episode of the entire series, and none of the regular actors appear in that episode. It's totally crazy. Apparently, this store also appears in the show Future Man, but I haven't seen that show. I'll have to check it out. So this was actually filmed on the day that the Switch 2 came out, and I was actually very, very impressed by the amount of Switch 2 stuff they had in store. On my own, I ended up picking up Mario Kart World and Yakuza 0. I'll end up doing a review of that at some point, but it's still very impressive the amount of stuff they had here. I don't know a lot of retro video game stores that end up having so much new stock. It's nice to see this much stuff in an independently owned store to know that you can buy it locally if you want to. I ended up chatting it up with the people that worked here, and they were all very nice. I found the Mario decorations that they made themselves super kitschy and fun. If you're into Nintendo Switch collecting, they've got a very good selection of like Criterion type games. What I mean by that is like well-reviewed games that I didn't necessarily know they had physical versions of. This is one of my favorite games on the Switch, and I love the Steelbook, and this is actually the Steelbook for Tears of the Kingdom. If you're in the area, I definitely recommend checking this place out. Zelda Link's Awakening on the original Game Boy was probably my favorite Zelda game of all time. I played this game so many times on the original Game Boy, then on Game Boy Color with the X, and I just always would go back and play this game over and over again. It's a game that has an ending that hits you right in the chest, and it makes you feel things that you didn't know you'd feel. This version for Switch took a classic and reinvented it with an art style that was unexpected, gorgeous, and played very well into the theme. This officially marks me buying this game for the same console twice, but I do not mind at all. This case is amazing, and I'm super glad I picked it up.
Now, World 8 is sick, and one of the things I didn't highlight that well in that segment was just the people that worked there. I ended up just chatting it up with them for quite a bit, and we were talking about like different games, we were talking about the store in general, but it's a great spot that seems to have a decent community built around it. And I mean, that makes a ton of sense. They've been around for a decade plus, I think, and you don't get to do that in such a major metropolitan area unless you're doing a lot of things right. So World 8, definitely worth checking out. And this next store is related to World 8, and I've just never been there, so I said, hey, you know what, I gotta go there. So let's check that out.
It's a tall order to call a place Little Akihabara. I really liked World 8, so I decided to check out their sister store, World 8 2, which is located in the Little Tokyo Mall. I'm out here looking for Nintendo 64, and there are so many Japanese versions of games that are so much cheaper than their American counterpart. I am looking for Japanese exclusives to help round out my collection. Now, one of the grail games I'm looking for to complete my collection is Sculptor's Cut, but I'm not mentally prepared to pick up Sculptor's Cut today. I am, however, ready to pick up Blitz Special Edition. I feel like $100 is about the right price price that I've been wanting to pay, and this is a super clean copy. I am going to a video game convention tomorrow though. These two games right here are GOAT games for me. I love Wild Guns, I love Final Fight 2, and if you want, you can play them both on the Switch. I ended up chatting it up with the people that worked here for more than a minute. Everybody here was very nice, and it's a great store to go to. If you're into otaku culture, this is probably the store for you, especially because it's surrounded by so many other stores that are also very much into Japanese stuff. Now you might be saying to yourself, $100 for a Blitz game? That's ridiculous. Well, here's the reason why. It's a slightly updated version of the 2001 Blitz, and it was a timed exclusive with Blockbuster, so it makes it a slight bit rare, and to be fair, I don't see it often. And that makes only 9 games left in a loose N64 set.
Well, anyways, I am super excited that I picked up another N64 game. It is so hard to find N64 games when the amount of video games that you need is getting smaller and smaller. 9 N64 games left total, and that is bonkers to me because I've been collecting N64 games for so long. I mean, yeah, I picked up this series probably a little before 100, maybe around 200, I don't know. But what I can say is I've been collecting N64 games since I first got an N64. It just became something that I kind of picked up on when I said, hey, you know what? The analog 3D is coming out. I want to be able to test every single N64 game on the analog 3D, so I might as well get to collecting.
What's next? There's a couple of other stores in Little Tokyo that have more to do with otaku culture. Welcome to the jungle. They've got fun and games. Now, they've actually got 2 jungle stores in this mall area. One focuses on kaiju and mech, and the other one is more broadly and generally anime. Now, I keep telling myself that I'm not going to collect any toys, but one of my big weaknesses are intricate Japanese toys. I've just always loved them ever since I was a little kid. It's actually kind of funny. I think I bought my kid this exact shirt when we were in Japan together. I love this Kamen Rider belt. It is amazing. What I've always liked about Japanese toys is they have 2 tiers, things for kids to play with, and then things for adults to have as collectibles. By the way, that Blu-ray of Mobile Suit Gundam being shaped like a Laserdisc is so cool. I'm a big fan of Godzilla. In a small way, my logo is actually based off of Godzilla, even though my logo is actually a dinosaur and Godzilla's a reptile, but I don't think he's a dinosaur. I like the Japanese ability to make scary things cute. I never grew up really watching Ultraman, but I grew up having the toys. Ultraman as a series has been around since 1966, and they have made so many Ultraman toys. I love them. I mean, this is what I looked like when I found a bunch of other cool things I liked. I bet you'll never guess what this thing is. It's a giant Kamen Rider or a Masked Rider, and it's actually a capsule toy machine. This one's interesting and specific because the Ramones took a picture with this exact Kamen Rider. I mean, it's definitely a very interesting pairing with the Ramones and otaku culture. I love it. They also have a number of other giant statues here. I mean, it's $4,000, but it seems kind of reasonable when you think about this thing being 6 feet tall. I mean, it's not like everybody needs a $7,000 Devilman statue, but if you want one, it's right here. Now, the Jungle has a second store in the same plaza that focuses more on just regular anime. I said I wasn't going to buy anything when I came in here, but as I looked through all the cool stuff, I'm not going to lie, I was very much tempted. Now, I'm not a big statue guy because I don't really have any space for these types of things, but if you go to enough video game stores, you will have seen quite a few of these statues. I gotta say though, they did have some things that did throw me for a loop. I have a huge weakness for anime that's been running for decades. I'm a huge fan of Astro Boy, and when I was a kid, I had a couple of random anime VHS, which included Gegege no Kitaru. It's like a spooky kids show about Japanese folklore. I loved it. I wouldn't say it's horrifying, but it's definitely spooky, Eerie, Indiana or Goosebumps. And I love Doraemon. Doraemon's another kid show. It's about a time-traveling cat that's trying to fix things in the past, and this is just another popular Japanese kid show that's been running since the 70s. I love finding vintage Pokemon toys. I actually already have the Jesse and James from the set, but I think I'm going to leave these here because I don't want to open up this package, and the ones I have are already loose. They also had some full sets of Lupin the Third stuff. I love Lupin the Third. It's such a great show. It's a show about a bunch of thieves that are always pulling heists, and it was definitely on Adult Swim, so it became really popular here in the US. I like this set a lot. They're very expressive, but it's missing Gomon, so I can't get this. This set's a little less expressive, but I do like how it's a full set, so I'm going to go ahead and pick this one up. And this set is super expressive, but it's also missing Gomon. But it does have extras, but I'm going to leave it here because I still want the full set of all the characters. So these first couple of toys I actually got were from a show called Anpanman. It's about a superhero whose face is made of sweet bean pastry. This particular character is one of the bad guys, but not that bad. Both the bad guys are bad guys, but they're only bad guys because you know, it's a superhero show, and these characters are pretty light because it's a kid's show. Anyways, both of these are like pullback toys, and they're little cars, so that's a lot of fun. Now, this is a blue cat from a completely different show in a UFO. The name of this cat is Doraemon, and he's awesome. I loved this show as a kid. Apparently, it's another pullback car, and it's a promo for the movie that came out in 1996. This is another Doraemon. I'm not exactly sure what it's from, but I thought it was just neat, and I picked it up because it's a lot of fun. If you're an American and you know about Doraemon at all, it's probably because of Takashi Murakami. He did a collaboration with the Uniqlo and Doraemon a while ago. So I got this Lupin the Third stat, and I found out that this particular one was made in 2001, which is pretty neat. That's around the time I probably got into this, because that's around the time that Lupin the Third started appearing on Adult Swim. Specifically, these were on Adult Swim around 2003, but yeah, these things are super cool. Apparently they were opened before, but that makes me happy actually, because then I don't have to worry about opening them. They've been opened, so I can open them. And this is a complete set, and I'm happy about that. Well, that's some more cool stuff to do in LA. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, go ahead and check out my next video that's coming out very soon about the SoCal Gaming Expo.